A simple woman was humiliated by her senior executives. Moment later, the billionaire CEO walked in. Vivian Reeves clutched her presentation folder tightly as the elevator ascended to the 47th floor of the Meridian Tower. Her heart raced with equal parts excitement and dread. After 3 years working in the accounting department at Westlake Innovations, today was finally her chance to present her revolutionary cost-saving strategy to the executive team. The daughter of a factory worker and a school cafeteria cook from rural Ohio, Vivian had fought for everything she'd achieved. While her colleagues had Ivy League degrees hanging in their offices, she'd earned her accounting degree through night classes while working 2 jobs. Her wardrobe consisted of carefully chosen pieces from discount stores, not the designer labels her coworkers casually displayed. The elevator doors opened to reveal the executive floor's opulence. Italian marble floors, abstract art worth more than her annual salary, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan's skyline. Vivian smoothed her only blazer, purchased on clearance 3 years ago, and took a deep breath. "You're late." The cold voice belonged to Maxwell Preston, Executive Vice President of Finance, whose Rolex watch alone cost more than Vivian's car. "We've already started the quarterly financial review." "I'm sorry, sir. The email said 10:30. It was moved to 10 o'clock. Didn't you check your updates?" He didn't wait for her response before turning away. "We're in the main conference room." Vivian's stomach nodded. No email notification had come through about the time change. As she followed Maxwell down the hallway, she noticed how the other executives turned to stare, some with curiosity, others with undisguised disdain. The conference room fell silent as she entered. 8 senior executives in bespoke suits surrounded the massive mahogany table, their MacBook Pros and leather portfolios arranged with military precision. "Ah, Ms. Reeves finally decides to join us," announced Alexis Thornton, the chief marketing officer, her voice dripping with condescension. Her Hermes scarf probably cost more than Vivian's monthly rent. "I apologize for the misunderstanding regarding the time," Vivian said, taking the only remaining seat at the far end of the table, away from the presentation screen. "Well, since you've made us wait, you might as well go first," said Derek Winters, the COO whose ruthless management style had earned him the nickname the Terminator among lower-level employees. Vivian nodded and began distributing her handouts. "I've developed a comprehensive wealth management strategy that could reduce our operational expenses by 22% while maintaining our investment portfolio strength. The approach combines innovative corporate restructuring with—" "Excuse me," interrupted Alexis, barely glancing at the document, "but is this printed on regular copy paper? The executive team uses premium stock for presentations." Heat rushed to Vivian's face. "I wasn't aware of that protocol. I can reprint them if—" "Just continue." Maxwell sighed dramatically, exchanging glances with Derek. Vivian connected her laptop to the presentation system, but the screen remained blank. "Is there a problem?" Derek asked, checking his watch. A limited edition Patek Philippe that represented 6 months of Vivian's salary. "Just a moment, please," Vivian said, frantically checking connections. The projector had worked perfectly during her practice run yesterday. Maxwell leaned toward Derek, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear. "This is what happens when we let the back office staff present to executives." Alexis snickered, adjusting her diamond earrings. "Perhaps we should invest in some basic technology training for the accounting department." Vivian finally got her presentation displayed, but her confidence was already shattered. "As you can see from this first chart, our current expenditure on external consultants for business innovation strategies is—" "That font is almost unreadable," Derek interrupted, "and these colors clash terribly." "The content is what matters," Vivian responded quietly. "If you look at the figures—" "Presentation is everything in business," Alexis cut in. "How do you expect anyone to take your ideas seriously when they look like they were created by an intern? Have you ever felt undermined when you knew your work had value? Like if you just had one person who believed in you, everything would change? Subscribe now to never miss another story of vindication and triumph." Vivian tried to continue, but each slide brought new criticisms. Not about her ideas, but about trivial presentation details. The executives barely engaged with the actual content of her proposal. And this final chart shows the projected executive compensation adjustments that would free up capital for our venture capital investments in emerging markets. Vivian concluded, her voice now barely audible. The room fell silent before Maxwell burst into laughter. Are you seriously suggesting we cut our compensation packages? Do you have any idea what caliber of talent we need to retain in this industry? It's not cutting, Vivian clarified, gathering courage. It's restructuring to align incentives with company performance metrics. The stock market strategy I've outlined would actually increase total compensation while improving shareholder value. Derek closed his leather portfolio with a snap. I've heard enough. This is precisely why accounting should stick to balancing books and leave strategy to those qualified to develop it. Alexis nodded in agreement. The luxury real estate market alone would offset any gains from your quaint little plan. Our executives require proper housing allowances to maintain appropriate appearances. But the numbers clearly show, Vivian tried again. The numbers show whatever you want them to show, Maxwell interrupted, standing up. This has been an absolute waste of our valuable time. Perhaps, Derek added with a cruel smile, you should focus on your actual job description instead of trying to impress people several levels above your pay grade. Tears threatened at the corners of Vivian's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. 3 months of working nights and weekends on this presentation, all dismissed without real consideration. Look at her, Alexis whispered to Maxwell, not bothering to lower her voice. Wearing that off-the-rack blazer to an executive meeting, the stitching is practically falling apart. Maxwell chuckled. And those shoes, I think my housekeeper has the same pair. The room filled with poorly concealed laughter as Vivian gathered her materials with trembling hands, her entire career flashing before her eyes. The scholarships she'd fought for, the promotions earned through relentless work, the respect she'd thought she'd built. While we're giving fashion advice, Derek added, you might want to consider that this is a business environment, not a community college classroom. Vivian stood frozen, humiliation burning through her entire body. The executives continued their barrage, having found an entertaining diversion for their morning. I wonder how she even got past HR, someone muttered. Diversity hire, obviously, another replied. Just as Vivian was about to flee the room, the massive double doors swung open. The laughter instantly died. Nathaniel Westlake, founder and CEO of Westlake Innovations, stood in the doorway. At 42, he'd built his technology empire from a garage startup to a Fortune 50 company. His presence was commanding despite his casual attire, a simple black turtleneck and jeans that somehow looked more authoritative than all the bespoke suits combined. Unlike many billionaires who remained distant from day-to-day operations, Nathaniel was known for his unexpected appearances at meetings throughout the company. What no one knew was that he'd been standing outside for the past 10 minutes, listening. The silence was deafening as he surveyed the room, his expression unreadable behind his signature black-rimmed glasses. I apologize for interrupting, he said finally, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent that made several executives shift uncomfortably in their Italian leather chairs. Please, continue with the meeting. Mr. Westlake, Maxwell recovered first, standing to greet him. We were just concluding a presentation from accounting, nothing that requires your valuable attention. Nathaniel's gaze remained fixed on Vivian, who was still clutching her materials, face flushed with humiliation. Actually, he said, I'd like to hear this presentation about cost-saving strategies and executive compensation restructuring. It sounds fascinating. The moment when everything changes can come when you least expect it. Hit that subscribe button to witness more incredible turning points that will inspire your own journey. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Derek and Alexis exchanged alarmed glances, while Maxwell's confident smile faltered. Sir, Derek began, we've already reviewed Ms. Reeves's materials and found them to be fundamentally flawed. Her understanding of executive needs and market realities is quite limited. Nathaniel nodded thoughtfully, then gestured to Vivian. Ms. Reeves, was it? Would you mind starting your presentation again? I'd like to hear it directly. Vivian looked up, meeting his gaze. In his eyes, she saw something she hadn't expected, genuine interest. Of course, Mr. Westlake, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Everyone else, Nathaniel added, taking a seat at the head of the table. Please take thorough notes. I'll want your detailed feedback afterward. For the next 30 minutes, Vivian presented her strategy again, this time without interruption. As she spoke about innovative approaches to corporate spending, investment portfolio diversification, and executive incentive structures tied to actual performance metrics, she regained her confidence. Nathaniel occasionally asked insightful questions that demonstrated he was truly engaging with her ideas, not just her presentation style or clothing. When she finished, he was silent for a moment, studying the final slide. "This is brilliant work," he finally said, "especially your analysis of our venture capital allocation inefficiencies. How long have you been developing this strategy?" "About 3 months, sir," Vivian answered. "I've been working on it evenings and weekends." Nathaniel nodded, then turned to face the executives, who sat in uncomfortable silence. "Would anyone like to share their thoughts on Ms. Reeves's presentation now?" he asked pleasantly. Maxwell cleared his throat. "Upon further reflection, there are some interesting concepts worth exploring." "Absolutely," Alexis chimed in. "The creative approach to financial independence for the company is quite innovative." Derek nodded vigorously. "I particularly appreciated the business transformation elements." Nathaniel's expression remained neutral. "Interesting. That's not what I heard when I was standing outside the door." The color drained from Maxwell's face. "Sir, we were simply providing constructive feedback on presentation style, which is important in our industry." "Constructive?" Nathaniel repeated. "I heard mockery about clothing choices, community colleges, and housekeepers' shoes. I heard dismissal without engagement. I heard everything except actual constructive feedback." He stood, buttoning his blazer, a simple action that somehow commanded the attention of everyone in the room. "Success mindset isn't about the price tag on your watch or the exclusivity of your alma mater," he said quietly. "It's about recognizing value regardless of its packaging." Turning to Vivian, he continued, "Ms. Reeves, I'd like you to implement a pilot program based on your strategy in our Western Division. You'll report directly to me on its progress." Vivian couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Thank you, Mr. Westlake. I won't disappoint you." "I know you won't," he replied with a slight smile before turning back to the executives. "As for the rest of you, I expect detailed reports on your department's operational expenditures on my desk by tomorrow morning. Use Ms. Reeves's metrics as your template." The executives sat in stunned silence as Nathaniel walked toward the door. Before exiting, he paused and turned back. "One more thing. Starting next month, we'll be implementing a new executive evaluation system based partly on how well you identify and develop talent within your departments. Your compensation packages will be adjusted accordingly." His gaze swept across the room. "Perhaps you should all reconsider what and who you value. Witnessing justice in action changes us forever. If you believe in the power of recognition and second chances, hit the like button and share this video with someone who needs to see that karma is real." After Nathaniel left, no one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Maxwell stood. "Meeting adjourned," he said stiffly. "Ms. Reeves, we'll connect later to discuss your transition." As the executives filed out, several now attempting to make eye contact with Vivian and offer congratulatory remarks that rang hollow, she remained seated, processing what had just happened. Just as she was gathering her materials, Nathaniel's assistant entered. "Ms. Reeves, Mr. Westlake would like to see you in his office." Vivian followed her to the top floor where Nathaniel was waiting in his surprisingly modest office. Unlike the ostentatious executive floor, his space was functional and uncluttered. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Coffee?" "Yes, thank you," she replied, still processing the morning's dramatic turn of events. As he poured coffee from a simple carafe, he spoke without looking up. "You know, I started this company with nothing but student debt and a prototype built in my parents' garage. My first investors laughed me out of the room because I couldn't afford a proper suit for our meeting." He handed her a mug, not fine china, but a ceramic mug with the company logo. "The problem with success," he continued, "is that people forget what it took to achieve it. They surround themselves with others who look, think, and act exactly like them. Innovation dies in echo chambers." "Is that why you came to our meeting today?" "Wah, however," Vivian asked. "Actually, no. Nathaniel admitted with a slight smile. It was pure coincidence. I try to randomly attend different departmental meetings each week. Helps me keep my finger on the pulse of the company. He took a sip of his coffee. But I'm glad I showed up when I did. Your strategy has the potential to save us millions while creating a more sustainable growth model. The fact that it came from someone those executives underestimated makes it even more valuable. Vivian nodded, finding her voice. Thank you for the opportunity, sir, but I'm concerned about working with those same executives after today. Nathaniel leaned back in his chair. Change is uncomfortable, Miss Reeves. Some will adapt, some won't. But the culture of this company is going to change. Starting today. He paused. And please, call me Nate. Over the next 6 months, Vivian's pilot program exceeded all projections, saving the company $12.7 million while increasing department productivity. 3 of the executives who had humiliated her either resigned or were reassigned. Maxwell Preston, surprisingly, became one of her strongest advocates after initially resisting the changes. A year later, Vivian was appointed as the youngest vice president in company history, not because of connections or pedigree, but because her ideas created tangible value. On the day of her promotion, she found a small package on her new desk. Inside was a note from Nathaniel. Never judge value by its packaging. Some of the world's greatest treasures come in the simplest boxes. The package contained a beautiful business card holder engraved with her name and new title, along with a quote, "Your worth isn't determined by those who fail to see it. Your story of triumph might be just beginning." Subscribe now so you never miss another lesson in leadership, perseverance, and the power of being seen for your true value. As word of Vivian's rise spread throughout the company, she became known not just for her financial acumen, but for her leadership style. Unlike the executives who had humiliated her, she built a team based on talent and potential rather than pedigree or appearance. When interviewed for the company newsletter about her extraordinary first year as VP, Vivian reflected on that pivotal morning in the conference room. The difference between success and failure often isn't about ability, she said. It's about opportunity and recognition. Everyone deserves at least one person who sees their true potential. That person had been Nathaniel Westlake, a billionaire who remembered what it felt like to be dismissed and underestimated. And now Vivian was determined to be that person for others climbing their own mountains of adversity in the corporate world. Sometimes life's most profound lessons come disguised as our most painful moments. For Vivian Reeves, humiliation became the foundation for triumph, proving that true value always finds its recognition, sometimes when you least expect it.